the idea that Europe was ever going to be able to fund the defense of Ukraine indefinitely is a false one.
Well, President Zelensky is going to announce a new 10-point resilience plan this week to boost morale amongst the Ukrainian people and pitch for more Western support. Maxim Tucker is the Sunday Times foreign desk editor and a former Kyiv correspondent for the paper.
It's much more domestically focused than the previous victory plan, which was supposed to appeal to Ukraine's Western partners and set out a roadmap that the West could help Ukraine achieve victory with. This is more about what Ukrainian society can do to build its industrial base, to rearm, to make sure that Ukrainians are building defenses for their energy infrastructure, for their towns and cities in a way that gives the Ukrainian population more confidence in the Zelensky government that they can be resilient against Russian attacks, that they can survive into the future, and try and prevent some of this desperation that's crept into the mood in Kyiv. People feeling that they might consider moving their assets abroad if they can, smuggling cash out of the country, fleeing to different European countries to try and avoid what's coming if the US withdraws support under President Trump.
Well, that's Maxim Tucker, Sunday Times foreign desk editor and formerly a Kyiv correspondent. Let's speak now to Hadley Gamble. She's chief international correspondent at the TV news channel Al Arabiya. Morning to you, Hadley.
Morning to you.
It's really interesting that we've had, haven't we, just over a month on from the victory plan, which was presented by President Zelensky. We've now got this resilience plan. Maxim Tucker there talked about almost a sense of desperation in Ukraine. Are you getting that sense?
No doubt about it. I mean, this is a country that is in trouble, and the election of Donald Trump in the United States really just highlights the fact that President Zelensky knows he is on the clock now in terms of continuing to be able to garner that support internally, whilst, as we've seen from that attack overnight, hearing the fireworks from Moscow, because Vladimir Putin does understand that perhaps he has a greater chance of winding this war down and saving face than he did prior to the election of Donald Trump in the United States. And I think what we're going to see over the next several weeks is a very, very rapid fire push from the Russians to get the Ukrainians to the table as quickly as possible.
And I wonder if we might have that push as well from the Biden administration in trying to, there've been reports, haven't there, that trying to get these kind of long-range missiles into Ukrainian hands to really almost give them everything that they can in these next couple of months before a Trump administration.
That's exactly right. They're going to try and give them everything that they've got. But at the end of the day, you have to take a step back and kind of wonder if President Zelensky and Ukraine weren't sold a pretty raw bill of goods from the West to begin with, because we're talking about economies that are under strain. I mean, President-elect Trump came to this victory simply because the American people were not interested in continuing to fund wars outside their borders. And what's interesting about that is, of course, Europe, when you take a look at the European economies, Germany's the sick man of Europe. Europe is basically pursuing policies of economic suicide, because right now the US economy is 50% larger than the entire EU economies combined. That's like a difference over a 15-year period. It's quite significant. So, the idea that Europe was ever going to be able to fund the defense of Ukraine indefinitely is a false one. And I think that what you're seeing right now with President Zelensky with this new plan is coming to that realization that I've got to do as much as I can, as quickly as I can, to keep this country together.
I know you've interviewed President Putin. What's your sense of his moves now? Do you think he feels emboldened with Trump's election?
Absolutely. But remember, of course, this is a Russian economy that he's managed to turn around in a real way, despite heavy economic sanctions from the West. Those who follow energy markets, for example, said from the very beginning that these oil sanctions were just not tough enough, that they weren't going to have the desired impact. But the West went ahead and did all of this anyway. And at the same point, you've got a revitalized Russian economy, which we didn't see a few years ago prior to the invasion. So he's been flying high on those economic numbers despite external pressure. And at the same point, this is a man who understands he's got a limited time frame to get out of this with saving face. And he's going to do everything that he can to look strong on the exit. And my sense coming out of Washington is that President-elect Trump, as much as he wants to put an end to this war and campaign rhetoric that we've heard, is that he also wants to make sure that the United States and that the Ukrainians don't walk away from this looking as if they've really lost. So I think that this short order time frame for wrapping up this war is something that even President Zelensky has now acknowledged was going to happen. So within the next 6 months, I think you're going to see significant movement toward that.
And support-wise, what support do you think is left for Zelensky? And I don't mean people who are kind of verbally saying, well, of course we don't want Russia to take over Ukraine, but I mean actual support, hands in pockets, providing money.
Yeah, this is interesting because I spent actually quite a bit of time in Ukraine prior to the invasion, and spoke to those who, still today have business in Ukraine. And of course, I'm talking about the big money, the oligarchs, if you will, although they don't like to call themselves that anymore. They still have quite a hold on the Ukrainian economy. And the fact is, as soon as the day that this war is over, that can unlock billions of dollars of investment to that country. I mean, you've already got this Ukraine Development Fund that BlackRock and JP Morgan put together a few years ago, with an attempt to unlock that kind of investment. They need investment in multiple sectors, energy, infrastructure, manufacturing, agriculture, IT. They want to leverage all of this money coming from European Development Bank and others, International Finance Corporation. All of this money can be used to make the lives of Ukrainians better. It's just they're not going to be able to do that until a post-war environment. And then the question becomes, is Zelensky the right leader for a post-war Ukraine? But that's a bigger question.
Yeah. What do you think is the best possible outcome Ukraine can hope for in the coming months?
To get a land deal, to get a deal that does not, Donbass is gone. And I think the key there are security guarantees from the Europeans and even from the United States, that whatever deal that they cut with Vladimir Putin will be one that he will stick to, because that will unlock the money and make the lives of Ukrainians significantly better.
Hadley, really good to get your analysis on that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That is Hadley Gamble. She's chief international correspondent at the news channel Al Arabiya.
Do you think Ukraine can win the
it takes two to tango, and we're going to have a good meeting today. And I think the fact that we're even together today is a very good sign. And hopefully we'll have a good victory, because the other side wins. I don't think you're going to have victories with anything, to be honest with you. So we're going to sit down and just discuss it. And if we have a win, I think long before January 20th, before I would take the presidency. It's January 20th. But long before that, I think that we can work out something that's good for both sides. It's time. And by the way, the president knows that too. He wants to get something done. He doesn't want to do this. And so we look forward to having them. I look forward to being with him. But what I said is true. He was a piece of steel. He gave a very honest, straight answer, and that it really essentially ended the impeachment hoax. And I appreciated that. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, President.